Hello and welcome to the pre-application training for the Human Service Transportation Grant within the Community Service Partnership Grant Program under the Howard County Office of Community Partnerships. Today's presentation will be for the application for fiscal year 2026. For today's training, we will start by going over the CSP program. Then we will dig deeper and look at the Human Service Transportation funding opportunity. Then we will take a quick look at Neighborly software. Then we will do an overview of the components of the HST application. And then last but not least, we will do a quick review of how to access technical assistance when completing your application. First, a quick introduction to CSP staff. My name is Megan Godfrey Jackson, and I am our CSP program manager. And our work is also supported by Colleen Enzer, our CSP grant manager. So a quick overview of the CSP program. The purpose of the CSP program is to partner with nonprofits to equitably meet basic needs and foster safety, security, and well-being for Howard County residents, with the vision that communities are connected, resilient, and thriving. And we do so within the, we endeavor to implement the following guiding principles throughout our work, and you should see these incorporated throughout the application process. The results we are trying to achieve are that all people in Howard County have equitable access to services for basic needs, and that individuals and families are safe, secure, and economically stable. The CSP grant program has the following eligibility requirements, which apply to all grants under the program, including the HST grant. To be eligible, you must be a qualified 501c3 nonprofit organization in good standing with the IRS. You must be registered with the Maryland State Department of Assessments and Taxation, also known as SDAT. You must provide critical human services to Howard County residents, and you must be in alignment with at least one of our funding areas of focus, which we will go over on the next slide. CSP program has the following expectations, and that basically means that strong applicants will demonstrate these things: the ability to partner across sectors to improve delivery of services or organizational effectiveness, the engagement of program beneficiaries, which are the individuals or entities that you serve, in the design and refinement of the programs, the proven track record of effective high quality service delivery, and the ability to effectively track and report on impact. And then last but not least, clearly articulated organizational and programmatic sustainability, including a commitment to equity. Our funding areas of focus are in two categories. These are not hierarchical. They are just two separate categories. The first is basic human needs. This focuses on addressing addressing services for basic needs for residents who lack access to adequate resources or are facing financial hardships. And then their safety security level is focused on increasing equitable access to opportunities to grow and thrive. You saw mention of our expectation around partnership. And in particular, we are looking for organizations to demonstrate that they have at least a few partnerships that fall in that coordinate to integrate level on this collaboration spectrum. So the application that is opening for submission is our Human Service Transportation Grant. And so this funding opportunity will very specifically be for fiscal year 2026, which means that the term of the grant will be from July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026. This means that all funds that all expenses incurred under the grant must be incurred during that time period. So the FY2026 HST grant application is open to all eligible applicants. CSP grants are funded through the county budgeting process. This includes the HST grants. This means that they are dependent upon the resources available in the budget each year and that they are subject to change from one grant year to another. Each applicant organization may only submit one HST grant application. We'll go over this in more depth later, but multiple users can work on one application for a nonprofit. So if your nonprofit has 2 or 3 people who will be completing your application, those 2 or 3 people can all sign up as users within our online system and work on an application. But so it is important to make sure that they're going to follow these steps to get added to the same application so that they're working on completing one application to be submitted on behalf of the nonprofit. Applications will open on June 25th, 2025 and be due on July 30th by 11:59 p.m., which is 1 minute before midnight. So the HST program grant provides funding to nonprofit organizations to assist in meeting the transportation needs of adults, which is individuals 18 years or older with disabilities living in Howard County. This funding seeks to support independent living, decrease barriers to transportation services, and expand transportation mobility options available to this population. Very specifically, the eligible use of the HST program grants is that it will fund services that are planned, designed, and carried out specifically to meet the transportation needs of adults with a disability who, because of their disability, are unable to transport themselves or use fixed route bus services, and or for whom transportation services are unavailable, inadequate, or inappropriate. So just to be very, very clear, in order to be eligible to receive funding, your proposed use of funds must align with this grant description. And 2 things that I want to draw your attention to. When we say that the services must be planned, designed, and carried out specifically for the transportation needs of adults with disabilities, this means that the service itself must be designed for adults with disabilities. It cannot be that you provide transportation across all clients, which then happens to also serve individuals with disabilities. It must be that the purpose of this transportation is specifically targeted at serving individuals with disabilities. And the reason for the need for transportation must be as a direct result of their disability. There can be other extenuating circumstances, but the primary need for transportation must be because of a disability, not because of those extenuating circumstances such as inadequate access to a vehicle, income constraints that limit their ability to access transportation or to purchase a vehicle. Those types of needs are not addressed underneath of this grant. We do have other grant opportunities under the CSP program that can fund transportation for those types of needs. But this HST program grant is very specifically intended for services that are planned, designed, and carried out for people with a disability who, because of their disability, cannot access transportation. If you are a new applicant to this grant and you are not sure whether or not your planned use of funds aligns with this very specific and targeted program description, please reach out to CSP staff. We are happy to have that conversation with you and help you to determine whether or not your intended services align. So within that description, there are 3 eligible trip activities. These eligible trip activities align very closely with our funding areas of focus, and they are employment, which includes job interviews, work, internships and apprenticeships included, and work-related trainings. Additionally, healthcare trips, medical and dental appointments. Medical can include behavioral and mental health as well. And then also social services. This really includes any type of access to human services. So this could be, taking a client to receive services from the Community Action Council, from the Department of Social Services, or getting the client out into the community to achieve the community integration services. In addition to the requirement that the proposed use of funds align with the descriptions that we just reviewed, further eligibility requirements include that the organization must be in operation for 1 year or more, that the organization must provide services to adults with disabilities, and that the HST grant minimum request is $5,000. And the grant cannot include any indirect costs. So all of the costs requested under the grant must be directly intended for the provision of transportation. This is just an overview of the application components, and we will get down into more detail later, but if you are someone who likes to have a bit of a checklist in front of you, these are the components of the application. All of our applications are submitted online via Neighborly software. This is the link and the QR code to get into our portal. You have to specifically use the CSP grants portal. There are other jurisdictions and even other agencies within Howard County that use Neighborly, but you will not be able to access our grants through any other portal. It must be through this portal. And then also Neighborly software is best supported on Google Chrome. So if you are a returning user, you will simply sign in using your existing username and password. If you are not registered yet, the first step is to get registered. Neighborly does have a kind of step-by-step set of instructions in order to get registered. There's also a video for tutorial for guidance. And so once you are able to get registered, then you'll simply sign in, and each time you return to work on your application, you'll just sign in. So to get started on an application, once you sign in, you will be brought to your user dashboard. And on your user dashboard, you will see a section that says Start a New Application. The screenshot that I'm showing you as an example is for our core support grant, not our HST grant, but HST will look exactly the same. It just will say HST grant, and the description will be the description for the HST grant. So in order to get started, you'll click Start an Application. A pop-up will appear. You'll type in your organization's name, and then you'll click Start Application. Once you click Start Application, you'll be brought to your application dashboard. Again, this will specify that it is the HST grant, not the core support grant, but it will look very similar. You'll see the application, users, and print options on the side, and then you will see a list of the grant components, the breakdown of the application components. So each of these program overview, A, B, C, D, E, F that are off to the side, those are the sections of the application that must be completed before you can submit and certify your application. Certify and then submit your application. As you move through and complete these sections, they will show as checked off. So that you will know that you have completed them. You're able to click through the application components as you want. Be sure to save as you go. The system will time out after 55 minutes and unsaved progress will be lost. It can be a good strategy if you prefer to open a Word document or a similar application to Word and type your responses in there and then copy and paste them when you are ready into the application. That way you do not lose any of your progress. And then the last thing is that the forms do allow you to save and continue editing. In order to add a user, like I mentioned earlier, multiple users can work on the same application. In order to add a user to the application, one user will create the application and then add other users to the application. You're going to click users on that menu all the way on the left-hand side, and then you're going to follow the prompts to enter the user. Users should register before you add them to the application. So if I wanted to add Colleen to the application, I would ask Colleen to register in Neighborly, and then I would ask Colleen what email address she used to register. Then I would use that email address to add her to the application, which is called the case in the system, by putting in her first name, last name, and that email address and clicking add user. The important thing to remember is that all users under an application have the same privileges. So you can't limit a user's ability to edit the application. There's not a view only option. Everyone has the same access. Once you have created an application, if you stop working on the application and then you want to come back later, you will find the application under the section on your dashboard. So once you log in, you'll go to your user dashboard. You'll immediately get brought to your user dashboard, and under the section continue an existing application, your application should be listed there, and then you just click view application. Likewise, if you are a user that's been added to an application, you will know that you've successfully been added to the application because it should pop up under continue an existing application. If you have any trouble with that, please contact CSP staff. We can help you get a user added. If you need customer support from Neighborly because you are experiencing technical issues with the software itself, so a page is not loading, you're getting error messages, when you're trying to push submit, something is not working, those types of technical issues with the system itself. Neighborly customer support is available from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. And you are able to get access to customer support by clicking that little question mark design that's in the top right corner of your screen. I do ask that if you reach out to Neighborly customer support because you are having technical assistance, please also shoot Colleen and I an email letting us know so that we are aware that you are experiencing issues, and so that we can make sure that you're getting a timely response from Neighborly customer support. If you are getting an error message, it may be because a field is not being completed correctly, or it doesn't have, or so you have missed completing a response. If you scroll up through the section, you may be able to find more details on how to resolve the issue before reaching out to customer support. If you have questions that are specific about the CSP program, about what grants are available, questions about the application itself, eligibility questions, things like that, those questions can be directed to CSP staff. Neighborly customer support will not be able to help with those. All right, so let's jump into the HST application itself. So just a couple of quick reminders based on years of experience with kind of commonly occurring issues. So first, make sure that you respond to every question. All questions require a response within the application unless very specifically indicated otherwise. Answer specifically and completely. So be sure to read the question that's being asked. If it is a question that has multiple parts, make sure to answer each section of the question and provide as much information as is necessary to fully respond to the question. Please also use the forms that are provided. There are several components of the application, the performance measures chart and the budget in particular, where you will be downloading a form, completing that form, and then uploading that form to the system. Please do not create your own version of the budget or your own version of the performance measures chart. Please use the form that has been linked and provided. If you're having any trouble accessing that form, please reach out to CSP staff and let us know. Please always use the legal name of your organization when you are entering it into organization name sections. Please don't use your acronym or a shortened name. Please use the full legal name. That does not have to be when you are writing narrative responses. This is specifically if it is, say, in sections that say organization name, then please use your full organization's legal name. Consistency in the requested amount, just be attentive to making sure that in the different places within the application where you state how much you will be requesting, that you are being consistent. So if you say that you are requesting a $25,000 grant, then that $25,000 should be consistent within the application form and also, within the budget section and also within the budget itself. Both of those things should reflect $25,000 if that is the amount that you are requesting. Last but not least, understand allowable expenses under the grant. For the HST grant, expenses under the grant should be specifically related to the provision of transportation, and no indirect costs are allowed. The first section of the application is the program overview. This section truly just provides a quick outline of the grant purpose, eligibility, and requirements. It is just a reminder for you to have the opportunity to review that information once more before entering into the application. Once you have reviewed that information and you feel good to go, then you just click complete and continue. The next section is the eligibility verification. I do strongly encourage applicants to complete this section first to ensure that they are eligible before proceeding with the other sections of the application. This section of the application is going to ask you a series of yes or no questions. If any of the answers to those questions are no, then your organization does not meet the eligibility requirements to apply. If you have questions regarding your eligibility, please contact CSP staff. During this series of questions, you will be asked to upload proof of your 501c3 nonprofit status, which is your IRS determination letter. The next section of the application is your organization information section. This is a pretty quick section to get completed. It is your basic organization information and points of contact for the contact people for the 3 points of contact listed: the agreement signatory, the fiscal contact, and the grant contact. And this section of the application provides a clear definition of what each of those roles is. So when you're providing contact information, please give us as much as possible. When you are selecting those points of contact, one person can serve in more than one role. So if your executive director will be the point of contact for all 3 of those, that's completely fine. You can also have a different person in each role. And if you are the recipient of other CSP grants, the points of contact for each grant type can differ. So you can select other points of contact besides those in your other grants. And we do use this point of contact information as a reference throughout the grant process. So if your points of contact change, please make sure you notify CSP staff. The next section in the application is the application form itself. This is going to be the most time-consuming section. This is the form where you're going to provide us with detailed information about the organization and also the proposed use of funds. It's an online form. There's a bunch of variety of different types of application questions, and you're just going to complete it by responding to each question. Just a quick note that the CSP grant funds may only be used to provide services to Howard County residents. So it is important, in particular, if you are an organization that serves a region broader than just Howard County, that you make it clear in your responses that your services that you're applying for are in support of specifically of Howard County residents. So the next section of the application will be the performance measures section. Within this section of the application itself, there is a ton of guidance and information to help support the completion of this section. A lot of the guidance that is provided in this slideshow is also directly on the page for completing your performance measures. Performance measures are completed in a Word form. So this is a form that you will download from the performance measures section of the application. And then you will input the information and then upload the form once it's complete. The performance measures are, we require you identify at least one of each of these 3 types of performance measures. How much are we doing? How well are we doing it? And is anyone better off? And you do not, you're not required to have any more than 3 for each of these performance measure types. So the how much will we do performance measure is really an output measure. From the perspective of the HST grant, focused on transportation, this may be things like number of trips. It could get broken down into number of medical trips, number of employment trips. It also could be number of clients served, unduplicated. So across the year, how many total clients received transportation services. The next type of measure is how well did we do it? How well will we do it? So this is a measure that is really looking at the quality of the service provision. So this measure is about the organization itself and how well the organization is providing services, what quality of service the nonprofit is providing. So these should really reflect indicators like timeliness, responsiveness, client satisfaction, professional qualifications. So from the perspective of transportation, this may be, you know, timeliness. So, you know, getting clients to employment on time, to their jobs on time, getting to their appointments on time, that could be something that is very important. It also could be client satisfaction. So it could be the result of a survey that is done to clients, rating the client satisfaction survey. It could also be using, if you are an organization that uses onboard information systems, the GIS systems that collect, you know, safety data such as speed and things like that. This could also be, you could look at using that information to create a measure for transportation. And then last but not least is the most important but often the most difficult measure, and that is, will anyone be better off? So really, this is an outcome measure. This measure should be focused on the beneficiary of the service, so the clients that are being transported, and it should reflect a change in behavior, attitude or opinion, circumstance, knowledge or skill. So, and this could be, you know, are they better off? This could also be kind of a client survey to determine whether or not clients are feeling safe in the transportation that's being provided. That would really be looking at their attitude or opinion. It could also be looking at their circumstances. So if this is employment transportation, it could be their ability to maintain employment as a result of this transportation, things like that. And then the last part of the tool will ask you how, the last part of the form will ask you, how are you measuring? So this is really looking at what systems, tools, or processes. So if you're using surveys or logs or customer satisfaction, or case notes, or databases or GIS systems, things like that, how are you capturing this data in order to report on these measures? All right, so last but not, well, I guess not last, the last form to be completed is the grant budget. So this budget should provide the detailed, it should detail the costs for which you are requesting grant funding. So continuing with the example of a $25,000 grant request, if you were to be requesting $25,000, then your grant budget should total $25,000. And that $25,000 should then be broken down across the line items in the budget, telling us how much you're going to spend in each one of those line items. And then those line items should total that grant amount, that total grant request of $25,000. Then there is the budget narrative section. The budget narrative should detail the costs in each line item. So for example, if my $25,000 grant was for salary for drivers, then all $25,000 would go in the personnel line item for the drivers. And then in the budget narrative, maybe I am using that $25,000 to support 2 drivers. Maybe I am supporting the first driver at $15,000. So in that budget line item, I would put driver number 1. I would say what their hourly rate is, the number of hours that they are being funded to drive, and that total equals 15,000. And then for driver number 2, I would put in the similar information and show that I'm requesting a total of 10,000 for that driver. And then all together, that information supports the total $25,000 in the personnel line item. The budget narrative section is really very important as it is used to provide us with the information that we need to understand the funding that you are requesting. Similar to the performance measures section, the budget section of the application includes a great deal of guidance to help you to complete your budget. Please use this guidance as you go through the process. The budget form itself is set to auto-calculate. However, it is important that you, before you finalize your budget, make sure that everything is totaling accurately and that all the numbers provided are correct. Last but not least, just a reminder that indirect costs are not eligible, that every cost under the HST grant request should be directly related to the provision of transportation. So the last section of the application is our supplemental documents. These documents must be uploaded as supplemental information, and they are your organization's information. So these are documents that your organization should have on hand that then need to be uploaded as supplemental information for your application. So the first is financial statements. We require income statements and a balance sheet. So your income statement should show revenue, expenses, and net income, budget to actual, and your balance sheet should show your assets and liabilities. And we do require these to be submitted for current year to date and 1 year prior. And this is based on your organization's fiscal year. So if you are an organization that runs on a calendar year, January to December, then your current year would be January 1, 2025 to the end of June 2025. Then your prior year would be January 1, 2024 to December end 2024. If you are an organization that runs on a July to June calendar year, or sorry, fiscal year, then your current fiscal year would be July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. And your prior fiscal year would be July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024. The next requirement is your most recent IRS Form 990. Then we do require the submission of your most recent audit or financial review. If your organization does not meet the charitable contribution threshold defined by Maryland State that requires an audit, then you can submit a financial review. If you do not meet the charitable contribution requirement for a financial review, then you can submit your IRS Form 990. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to CSP staff. The next requirement is an upload of your list of board of directors. Please make sure that this includes the titles and email addresses for your board officers. Maryland State requires at least 3 board officers, which are the president, secretary, and treasurer. Your organization may have more, but we need the titles and email addresses for at least the following 3 board officer positions. Next, we need a copy of your organization's current board bylaws, a copy of your organization chart. This should include staff positions. This include position titles, staff names, and vacancies. And last but not least, we need a copy of your organization's articles of incorporation, which is also sometimes referred to as your charter. You may choose to upload letters of support. This task is optional, and you will not be penalized in any way if you choose not to upload letters of support. However, they can be helpful in providing supplemental information to enhance your application. Letters of support can come from partners, board members, volunteers, advocates, donors, program service beneficiaries, and truly, really anyone that wants to write a letter of support. We do ask that if there is the reason to, if there is any reason that, in particular, if you're submitting from a program beneficiary, that we allow for confidentiality when appropriate. So this can include redacting names or submitting anonymous letters when those letters are coming from a program beneficiary. The last step is the signature. So this is really to certify the application is complete and accurate, and to then sign and submit. So the required signatures on this section are the executive director or CEO and a board officer. If you are a board-run organization with no executive director, then you will have 2 board officers sign. So it shouldn't be the same board officer twice. It should be 2 separate board officers that are going to sign the application. If you are in between executive directors or have a vacancy in that role, you can either have an interim, an individual serving as interim sign, or you can have a second board officer sign the application. The application cannot be submitted until all the required application components are marked as complete. So if you're not seeing the option to certify and submit, then that may mean that your prior application components are not complete. So just go back through and make sure that everything is complete before you move on to this step. And last but not least, please take the time to review your application before submitting. This includes reviewing any attached documents to make sure that the intended document is the one that has been attached. The signatories will be certifying to the following information: that the information in the application is correct and accurate, that they have reviewed the guidelines and the organization meets the eligibility requirements, that they understand the grant awards are subject to availability of funds, that they understand that it is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure that the required information is submitted and submitted on time. Just a reminder that July 30th by 11:59 p.m. is the deadline. That they understand the county cannot accept late or incomplete applications. They understand that applications will only be accepted as complete if accompanied by all supporting documents, and that they may be contacted for more information for the purposes of this grant application. So this signature step can be completed several different ways. You can add the signatories, the executive director and or board officers, to your application as users following the guidance provided earlier in this training. And then as users, they can go through and review the application and certify. Or they can sit with someone else and review the application. Last but not least, if your organization has a proxy signature policy, then you may follow your own internal proxy signature policy for signing and certifying this application. Finally, we get to technical assistance. CSP staff is committed to providing technical assistance during our application seasons. The technical assistance for the HST grant will be provided upon request. Requests can be submitted via email to Camille Banta at the email address provided. Typically, our sessions are scheduled for 30 minutes. And we do ask that you come to the session ready to discuss whatever the information, whatever the topics are that you feel like are most important. These technical assistance sessions can really be used to cover just about anything. Our goal with these is to come to the table and to provide you with the best information and thinking that we can to help you to make decisions and to complete your application in the best way possible. So this can be discussing eligibility. This can be taking a look at what your thoughts are on your proposed use of funds and making sure that they align with the grant. This can be taking a look at the budget to make sure that it's everything looks correct and the information is being implemented or input correctly. This can be talking through your performance measures if that's a section that you're struggling with. This can be clarifying application questions, truly anything that helps to eliminate barriers to completing the application. You, however, do not feel like you have to schedule a technical assistance session in order to ask questions of CSP staff. If you have a quick question that doesn't really require a 30-minute session be scheduled, you are welcome to email or call CSP staff. You do not have to wait for a scheduled TA session. So that concludes today's presentation. Thank you very much. And again, please do not hesitate to reach out as you move forward with completing your application. CSP staff is available and ready to help. And with that, we wish you the best of luck.